Talk to you later. No, no, no. see your name?
Felony charge for a nonviolent offense, or winding through the felony courts. Kids are no longer just automatically bumped up on nonviolent offenses. And there's a landmark Justice Department settlement around the foreclosure crisis and all of the predatory lending that just decimated our neighborhoods. That's just a few of the accomplishments that we that are because of the Chicago Reporter over all these years.
And in that letter that you all sent to the Community Renewal Society, Angela, you also recognize, the number of alumni who have come through the Reporter and the kind of training and experience they got there.
Yeah, and there's a big conversation right now about diversity and inclusion in newsrooms and in all sorts of industries. And the Chicago Reporter has been for nearly 50 years creating leaders, people of color and white people, journalists, who've gone on to win Pulitzer Prizes, who are now leading some of the biggest news organizations in the country, and even our local newsrooms here in Chicago. So there's just been this substantial training and investment in people that has really contributed to better journalism and a better life for all of us in Chicago.
And so, Laura Washington, as we mentioned in the statement, it doesn't seem that the Reporter is going to be shut down, but instead sort of restaffed and repurposed. And the statement, which again can be read in entirety on our website, isn't 100% clear on how that editorial direction will be taken. But Laura Washington, have you spoken to any previous or more recent employees? Have they echoed anything that Reverend Middleton says in this statement?
The only thing we're hearing from is, as a matter of fact, we have a letter signed by well over 100 Reporter alumni who are deeply concerned about just the mere fact that you would shut down this news organization, put it on hiatus with no notice, with no transparency, remove the editor and publisher. Right now, the Reporter is without editorial direction, without editorial control. It really undermines its credibility as we speak. How can a news organization, how can a publication publish and have an impact and have a voice if it really essentially doesn't exist? There's just so many questions that have been raised by this, and the lack of transparency and the fact that the Community Renewal Society has been so silent and so unresponsive to our concerns is very troubling. We need some transparency. We need to find out exactly what the plan is, and we want assurances that the wall between the editorial and the business side being the Community Renewal Society, is not breached, and that the news organization will continue to be controlled and run by credible independent journalists.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there. My thanks to Laura Washington and Angela Caputo. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having us.
And now, Paris, we go back to you.
All right, thanks, Brandis. And still to come on Chicago tonight, dust from a smokestack demolition covered the Little Village neighborhood earlier this year. And now, City Council wants to make sure companies pay for, quote, betraying the public's trust.
Stop listening to the lies that they're putting out there.
Our Spotlight Politics team cuts through the commercials and the rhetoric of the, quote, fair tax fight. We also have more details on that in a moment. And the Bears take on the Buccaneers, led by 43-year-old future Hall of Famer Tom Brady, who threw 5 touchdowns last week. But first, some more of today's top stories. More back and forth on the heated so-called fair tax amendment. Governor Pritzker accuses opponents of the tax of wanting to tax income on retirees. Now, the opponents of the ballot initiative have said approval of this could pave the way for Democrats to institute a retirement tax. That initiative asks voters whether they want the state to move from a flat income tax to a graduated income tax. Now, there is nothing in the law that pertains to taxing retirement income. Governor Pritzker today said he is opposed to that idea.
They would, in fact, tax retirement income. They've proposed that. I think that we ought to be alleviating the burden on people across Illinois. I want to preserve the ban on retirement taxes And I stand with all Democrats opposed to raising retirement taxes.
COVID situation is getting critical just to the north in Wisconsin. The state's Governor Tony Evers has activated a field hospital on the state fairgrounds in West Allis due to some Wisconsin hospitals reaching capacity. The state reports 16% of its hospital beds are available as COVID cases have been skyrocketing. Mayor Lori Lightfoot had some harsh words for Wisconsin's GOP that has fought against shutdowns and mask mandates.
In a time of crisis, as we are right now, in a global pandemic, the fact that those partisans put their party over public health is shameful, and voters in Wisconsin should take note of that.
Meanwhile, in Illinois, public health officials report 2,600 new cases of COVID-19 today, with 42 additional deaths. That puts the state at more than 307,000 cases and 8,800 deaths in total. The 7-day testing positivity rate is at 3.5%, and the state has now conducted 6 million COVID tests. Dust from the smokestack demolition that enveloped Little Village in April may have settled just a bit. City Council has approved a measure that allows Chicago officials to strip multi-million-dollar tax incentives from companies that, quote, betray the public's trust. WTTW News reporter Heather Sharon joins us now with more details. Boy, Heather, that sounds like kind of a vague sort of phrase there. What prompted these new rules?
Well, when that dust cloud enveloped Little Village, city officials, including Alderman Mike Rodriguez, who represents the 22nd Ward, really scrambled to see what they could do, because it was really frustrating for many of the people that this project is getting nearly $20 million in tax incentives because it's going to bring industrial jobs to an area of the city that needs them. But Alderman Rodriguez soon learned that there was nothing they could do to take back those tax credits. So they started working on this ordinance, which would apply only to future companies that gets tax incentives. And if they break city rules or sort of pose a public nuisance like this dust cloud, they could face the loss of those incentives.
So does that mean that they can't punish Hilco, at least with taking away the tax incentives right now?
That's right. The city's law department determined, since the rules weren't in place when those tax incentives were granted, they can't sort of turn back the clock and apply these rules that were approved after the fact. No doubt a source of great frustration for Alderman Rodriguez and the residents around the former Crawford coal plant.
All right, Heather Sharon, thank you very much. And we'll see Heather again in just a few minutes for Spotlight Politics, where we'll discuss more news out of City Council today. But for now, our thanks once again to Heather Sharon.
Thanks, Paris.
And you can read Heather's full story on our website. It's at WTTW.com/news. The high-flying Nick Foles show came crashing down to earth last Sunday. So can the Bears find an offense as they prepare to face legendary quarterback Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home tomorrow night? Joining us to share his take is former Bears offensive lineman James Big Cat Williams. Big Cat, it's so great to see you. I want to start with the general situation in the NFL. You know, you have Cam Newton quarantining, a lot of folks at Tennessee quarantining. Do you think the NFL is going to make it through this season, given all the postponements?
I have worries about it. I think we knew coming into the season that the NFL's task was going to be a little taller than the NBA and the NHL, and even, you know, MLB baseball, because you have so many players on a team, and because with traveling, you're asking so many people to go along with. It's not just the team. It's not just the coaches. You know, you have staff members that have to go for you know, just everyday things that go on. You have trainers that have to attend. So there are a lot more people that you're dealing with when you're talking about an NFL team. And you knew that was going to make things difficult. You knew it was going to make things hard.
Yeah, it looks like some of the wheels are starting to come off, although the Bears game is still on as scheduled. How does this play into the psyche of players, knowing that this is hanging over everybody's heads?
Well, players came into the season knowing that it was going to be something that was going to take a lot of work. I don't know how much they thought about it, but they knew it was going to be out of the norm. They knew it was going to be different. Now you sit around and Tennessee was your first big blow up where you had a lot of players test positive, and like you said earlier, Cam Newton test positive. Now Stephon Gilmore from the Patriots test positive. So I think you're going to see a lot more players start to pop up, but it's what can you do unless you're going to start canceling games or postponing games? How far back can you actually push the season before you say that, there's just nothing else that we can do?
All right, well, let's get to the Bears game tomorrow. We saw what Nick Foles did when he came off the bench against Atlanta. He was untouchable. Last week, a far more human performance. Why do you think that was?
Well, you look at the Colts, and the Colts are a good defense. They fly to the ball. They run that old Tampa 2 like Lovey used to run here, and their players have bought into it. If you looked at the film, you constantly saw 4, 5, 6, 7 players, around the ball to make tackles. And a swarming defense and a defense that's confident in itself is a hard defense to beat. Nick Foles, it was his first week. For him to have to go up against that defense, it was a good test. I think we learned a lot, but you have to give him some time. He hasn't started. He just came off the bench versus Atlanta, played a quarter. Now he's got 6 quarters, close to 6 quarters under his belt. We're expecting a lot more out of him versus Tampa Bay than we were versus the Colts.
Certainly 6 quarters and no full off season. It's really tough to get accustomed to the offense. And as you said, that Indy defense looked like they were just dominating, especially at the line of scrimmage. So what does the Bears offense need to do to get back on track against Tampa?
Well, I think they've got to figure out how to run the ball. They've got to be able to run the ball to keep some of the pressure off of Foles. They're going to need to be able to, first of all, they're going to need to pick up the blitz. I think Tampa Bay is going to test them early. And if the Bears are not able to pick up the blitz at that line, at the backs, tight ends, if these guys cannot recognize and pick up blitz, they will get blitzed all game, and it could make for a long game. But if they're able to pick up those blitzes, if they're able to run the ball, if they're able to stay on track, if they're able to stay ahead of the chains, they stand a good chance in this game.
And, of course, they're going up against a legend, 43-year-old quarterback Tom Brady. There was a lot of thought that maybe Brady outside of New England, 43 years old, he's not going to be the same player. But it certainly looks like he is the same player. What's your assessment of him?
Yeah, he looks pretty good. I mean, he's come out. He's turned the ball over a little bit. He has thrown 4 interceptions, and 2 of them have gone back for touchdowns. But when you watch Brady, as he gets comfortable in a game, he still hits those long passes. He's still on point with those throws to the sidelines, the out routes, the slant routes. He's a smart guy. So a lot of the things he gets done happens before the ball is snapped while he's up at the line of scrimmage, and he's able to figure things out and determine where he wants that ball to go, and he still has the arm to get it there.
It's going to be a big task to try and stop him. The Bears are 3-1. The Bucs are 3-1. Do you believe the Bears? Where are they right now as a team? Are they as good as that 3-1 record?
I think that's still up in the air. It depends on how Foles plays. It depends on how that offense looks. Do the guys work together? You can't overthrow people. You can't drop balls. You can't miss blocks. It's the basics. So if they're able to do the basics, if they're able to keep that Bears defense off the field, if they're able to let them get their rest so that when they are on the field, they're able to get after Brady, it could look like a different game. But, all these things we got a lot of ifs going on right now.
Got a lot of ifs. All right, well, we'll know in a little more than 24 hours. All right, my thanks again to James Big Cat Williams.
Thanks, Bears.
And up next, our Spotlight Politics team tackles the city budget, the president's COVID diagnosis, and much, much more. And as we go to the weather, we remember singer-songwriter Johnny Nash, who died yesterday at the age of 80.
as the city tries to close a massive budget gap. We take a closer look at that and Speaker Michael Madigan's fate with our Spotlight Politics team. Amanda Vinicky, Carol Marine, Heather Sharon, and Paris Schutz. Welcome back, everybody. The gang's all here. So let's get right to it. Mayor Lori Lightfoot painted a grim picture ahead of her budget address. Take a look.
I've said to my colleagues in the city council, this will be the toughest budget that they vote for probably ever, given the size of the challenges and our desire not to discard the values that we all care about in making investments in people and in communities. This is going to be a tough one, though.
Heather, of course, you cover city council. What are you hearing?
There are no good solutions left. We believe that the mayor has asked the employee unions for somewhere in the neighborhood of $200 million in concessions. She's also going to have to put together some sort of package of cuts, service cuts, layoffs, furloughs, the whole 9 yards, because this is just an incredible amount of money. $1.2 billion for next year on top of $800 million this year. This is not something that a challenge that really the city council has ever faced, and it's going to be very painful, and it's going to force aldermen to take some votes that could threaten their political futures.
Paris, let's get your thoughts on this, because obviously you cover city council as well. $200 million in cuts on the table, as Heather just said, but that is not going to even begin to cover a $1.2 billion hole.
No, that just puts a dent in it, Brandis, and the only ways out of any kind of budget hole, you either tax, you either cut, or you borrow, and some combination of all that's going to happen. But that's why Mayor Lightfoot and Governor Pritzker and other municipal leaders are hoping on stimulus talks leading to money for municipalities like the city of Chicago. And then you saw President Trump on Twitter last night order an end to those talks, but then sort of double back today and decide, well, he wants to restart those talks, but in a limited fashion, just 1,200 checks for people and relief for the airline industry. None of that will solve the budget crises in the city. So they have a Hail Mary here that they're casting, across the water, and they are hoping the federal government comes through. Beyond that, there really is no way out other than massive borrowing. Amanda,
Paris just mentioned it, touched on it. Any hope for federal help?
It doesn't appear as if that is happening in the near future. It is somewhat surprising that you wouldn't have a president wanting to embrace readily a package leading into an election that would, send more checks to people that are without jobs, sitting in their homes. But that said, Republicans have steadfastly said that they don't want to be what they consider giving a bailout to states like they mentioned Illinois, cities like Chicago that they say haven't been able to manage their own finances. So it does seem to be an intractable problem, at least leading up to the election. Might things change thereafter? I suppose a lot of that depends on who wins the White House. I'll just say also, as we have this talk, I can't help but remember back in the beginning of the pandemic when Mayor Lightfoot said, no, our budget's going to be fine. This isn't going to be hurt at all. And while, of course, nobody could have projected it would go on this long and be this harmful to the economy and to individuals' health, I think it was clear even then it was going to put a dent in government budgets. But this is one where I think even her detractors would say, I wish that she had been right, because it is going to be painful, even with a federal ban.
Yeah, I think all of us remember that moment when she said that, Amanda. So moving over to state politics, because there's a lot to talk about there, the legislative probe of Michael Madigan in the ComEd scandal is put on hold until after the election. Here's some of what was said during the hearings about Madigan's knowledge of the goings-on around any dealings. Take a look.
The speaker was aware of its intent to influence. Those are questions that I don't think I'm in a position to comment on.
Michael Madigan, he's not ignorant of what is going on around him. He is not naive.
So, Carol, Republicans are furious about this, that the probe is on hold. So what is going on here? And is the federal investigation overshadowing the committee's work?
Always, and it always will, Brandis. It's a federal investigation, a mega investigation. And Mr. Glockner, who was testifying as now an executive at ComEd, used to be an assistant U.S. attorney. And so he's been brought in basically to be the new integrity and ethics guy that ComEd clearly needs. He's not going to say very much. He's going to be saying basically what's in concert with the feds. And no legislative hearing is going to trump or move aside a federal probe.
Amanda, we heard you speak earlier. You're reporting about Representative Stephanie Kiefowit in her attempt to unseat Speaker Michael Madigan. Who is she, and what does she need to do to convince her colleagues that she could be the next speaker?
So we just heard from her. She is a rep who has been there for some years now, knows her way around Springfield. But that said, nobody knows how to work the levers of government, but also knows how to work the politicians themselves like Madigan does. And so that is truly the challenge. She spoke with me about how she understands there might be some intimidation, even if it isn't directly announced, when you have somebody like Madigan who pulls the purse strings and also has those levers of power at his fingertips and has wielded them for so long. There's going to naturally be some hesitancy. And we see that, I think, on display with the reticence of many Democrats to speak out against Madigan in a way that likely was any other politician who was identified in the ComEd court filings, even if that politician had said, no, I didn't do anything wrong, would have been kicked to the curb. So that is for sure her challenge.
Paris, if her chances are slim, why do it? Why stick her neck out?
Well, you don't know what else could come out in this probe of Speaker Madigan, and I'll point you to this week, Brandis. You have the head of the Chicago Teachers Pension Fund in newly surfaced, by Capital Facts, newly surfaced comments in a board meeting saying that there was a pressure campaign to have that fund, the board of that fund, hire Madigan people, and there was intimidation, and there was racism and sexism, and the president of the board here has forwarded these complaints to investigative authorities. I mean, if this was not on the radar of the feds before, you can imagine that it perked up the ears of U.S. Attorney John Lausch, because this echoes what Madigan is allegedly accused of doing in the federal complaint against ComEd, an exchange of jobs for perhaps favorable legislation for ComEd. And Carol, I know this echoes things that Governor Blagojevich tried to do with pension funds.
Hallelujah. I mean, one of the big things in Blagojevich was for big contributions, putting some of his allies who had economic interests on critical pension boards and hospital facility planning boards. And so you get on those boards, you exert your influence, you make more money. It has plenty of echoes. It's not a new story in the state of Illinois.
And Heather, Governor Pritzker is proposing ending cash bail and no-knock warrants in his criminal justice reform package. Is this an easy layup for a governor in a Democratic supermajority?
You might think so, but nothing is easy when it comes to police reform, because you have some Democrats, while they may be blue, are conservative and want to sort of support the police. The other issue is the budget. If no federal aid comes to the state, so much of the oxygen during next month's veto session is going to be taken up with concerns about how the state is going to pay its bills. I don't know how much, energy anybody's going to have for anything other than that, because it's such an existential threat to the state's ability to continue to function and to take care of the most vulnerable residents. So you would think that you could get, enough Democrats in line to make this done. Nothing is simple in Illinois politics.
Or in 2020, for that matter. So, Carol, speaking of the governor, the so-called fair tax showdown, it's being played out through a multi-million-dollar ad campaigns. We're all seeing it on television. You talked to a nonpartisan organization that did a study about the proposal that's on the ballot next month. What did they find?
They found, and this, by the way, is the Institute of Taxation and Economic Policy, that if you look at the last 20 years and you compare what our flat tax would do compared to what a fair tax would do, in 20 years, $4 billion in tax burden has been hoisted on the backs of Black and Hispanic taxpayers at lower income levels than if you'd had a progressive income tax. The commercials that we're seeing right now, and you can be for this tax or against this tax, but the fact of the matter is that the threat that if it passes, it will mean it's opening the door to taxing retirement income. News alert, The legislature can do that right now today if it wants to, but it's never had the political will. And Governor Pritzker has clearly said he doesn't have the political will. So the fair tax does not anymore open the door to taxing retirement income. Then the door is already open under current Illinois law without changing the Constitution.
Let's not forget to mention the opposition, the biggest funder of the opposition is the state's wealthiest resident, the hedge fund manager Ken Griffin, who owns Citadel Investments. And I've gotten letters from senior citizens asking me, can you find out if my retirement's going to be taxed? Because this ad campaign targeting that it's having an effect of confusing a lot of people.
Amanda, you, speaking of confusion, you did some reporting this week that there's a lawsuit over the wording that voters may not actually have the last word on this. Tell us about that.
So I don't suspect that this lawsuit is going to lead to the constitutional amendment being removed from the ballot or anything. So I think voters will have the last say. It is merely what information that they are presented with and the seeking to change that. This is from a group that, by the way, doesn't support raising any taxes. So it is an organization that is against the graduated income tax in the first place, but they say that the language voters are given on the ballot is misleading or at least leaning pro the graduated income tax. So they want some sort of correction given. This could potentially, however, add to additional confusion on a very complex topic that people clearly have a lot of questions and concerns about because it's their taxes.
And taxes can be confusing. So let's move on to national politics. The vice presidential debate is tonight. Will we see a repeat of this?
We're moving on.
It didn't take them.
Well, Vice President,
Chris,
no.
Can I be honest? It's a very important
Try to
question.
be honest.
No, he stood up.
No,
he stood up,
the answer to the question is no.
Ukraine.
No, sir.
With $1 billion, if you
that
get rid
is
of
absolutely you know what, you're,
not
true.
You're
going to have
true.
Gentlemen.
Carol, is the COVID-19 outbreak at the White House, is it overshadowing the substance of tonight's debate between Senator Kamala Harris and Vice President Mike Pence?
You know, Brandis, it is the substance. It's the substance not only because it is a national or a world health crisis, it's an economic crisis, it's a crisis of how well government delivers services to its citizens. So COVID-19 is a multifaceted, horrific plague that really reaches into every corner of the race for the presidency. And so the plexiglass on the stage is going to be emblematic of the fact that this is, in fact, the elephant in the room.
Heather, you know, the president has sent some mixed messages on the stimulus. What are voters to think, to believe?
Well, I mean, this has sort of been the story of the Trump presidency for now 3, almost 4 years, right? He says one thing, he changes it, it goes back, and everybody has to scramble. You know, we asked Mayor Lightfoot this question today, and she said, well, you know, maybe there's an outside chance, but, you know, my confidence has only grown into the single digits, if anything. So I think it's clear that Chicago and Illinois has to sort of prepare to face this financial Armageddon on its own without help from the federal government, you know, maybe keeping an eye on the horizon for some, you know, white knight to gallop in. But I think it's very unlikely given that we are less than 30 days to the election. And typically this close to an election, everything freezes as the election sort of focuses everybody's attention and energy.
Paris, what else do you think we can expect to see from tonight's debate?
I would expect that it'll be more closely paid attention to than other vice presidential debates. I would expect that Vice President Pence will use the messaging strategy of saying, well, on COVID, they shut down travel from China and it avoided what could have been 2 million deaths. And that's the sort of messaging they've used. But it's hard for that messaging to catch on when your own White House right now has upwards of 30 to 32 people in quarantine with COVID-19, more people in quarantine, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, so the president himself recovering from COVID-19. So it'll be very interesting.
Amanda, I'm going to give you the last word. You know, as Paris just said, the president himself is recovering from COVID-19. Bold prediction here. Do you think we'll see that third debate or the second and third debates between the president and former vice president?
President Trump says he's ready and raring to go. I suppose part of that depends on how comfortable Vice President Biden is to be in the same room as him. Perhaps rather than a prediction, I will offer a rare opinion, and that is, I hope so. Debate's healthy for democracy, even if some of it gets really brutal.
I think we can all agree on that. My thanks to our Spotlight Politics team, Amanda Venicky, Carol Marine, Heather Sharoon, and of course, Paris Schutz. And be sure to visit our website for the WTTW News 2020 Voter Guide. There you'll find special election coverage and details on specific races. Plus, you can search for candidates by race or district and hear from them in their own words. It's all at WTTW.com/voterguide. And that's our show for this Wednesday night. Don't forget to stay connected with us by signing up for our daily briefing. And you can get Chicago Tonight streamed on Facebook, YouTube, and our website, WTTW.com/news.
You can also get the show via podcast in the PBS video app. And please join us tomorrow night live at 7. We'll have highlights and analysis of the Pence-Harris vice presidential debate.
And from a hall of presidential portraits to an offbeat look at first ladies, a Chicago theater confronts the election. Now, for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, I'm Brandis Friedman.
And I'm Paris Schutz. Thank you so much for watching. Stay healthy and safe, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a Chicago personal injury and wrongful death firm that is proud of their attorneys selected for the 2020 Illinois Super Lawyers List.